Hi, everyone. How long has it been, Linda? I think we haven't talked since the beginning of March.
Was it March?
I think so. It's quite a while.
It's been a little cray-cray for me.
For you and for the world and for the USA and for the planet, it's been pretty crazy all
Oh,
around.
so sad.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Undoubtedly.
So, everybody wants to know about Hedgehog.
Hedgehog as the
Pete.
Pete. Yeah, no, it's not surprising to me because I remember when he got in, my first thought was maybe he wouldn't get in because of how complicated his chart was November last year, but he did have the same pattern as Trump, Jupiter in his sign, because he's a Gemini. And so then he got in through that, but with all the other things, they remained there. So that led to trouble, pretty soon because his
Right.
first problem was, what was it, weeks, not even, pretty quickly. That signal thing happened. And then again now, and the thing now is that this swath he's in from here to like basically July is really bad because Saturn is moving in on two of his key planets. So it's very possible that he'd lose his job. The
Right.
only holdback to that is Jupiter doesn't get out of his sign until first week of June. I don't know if it's enough to stop it. It could, but if it does, then he's got continued trouble because the more we go into middle of the year, end of the year, it continues because, see, Jupiter is much faster. It's a 12-year cycle, so you get a year per sign as it's moving.
Right.
Saturn is 2.5 years. It hangs longer. Neptune, the other planet that is bothering him, that takes way longer. So I would be completely amazed if this guy made it into the, second half of the Trump administration, because next year it doesn't get better. There are continued problems, like going all the way into the beginning of 27, to which you have to add that he's not a smart man, he's an idiot. I mean, look what he does. And this is the thing, people are always wondering, they'll say, well, you say this about Geminis, and I'm a Gemini. Well, yeah, but are you a stupid Gemini or are you more
No,
normal
yeah.
Gemini?
There's
Because,
very smart Geminis.
yeah, well, the very smart Geminis, because the whole idea is the astrology is how are you using your planets? What are you doing with them? Then you get a certain result. That's why you get these ranges, right, where a house can be really, really good at the top and really terrible at the bottom end. Like the best house to show you this is the house that, remember you and I have talked about how it was really active when you had a sickness and then
Yeah.
awaken your spirituality, because the spirituality is the high end of that house. The low end is when you're at the hospital and you might be near death. It's like everything is falling apart. Plus, same house rules sequestration, so it rules prisons and monasteries. Like, which do you want? Monasteries, people presumably go there to find enlightenment. Prison, you go there
Right.
because you've committed crimes, right?
Right, exactly.
So the whole point is, what are you expressing in your life through these planets? So if you do it better, you'll get better results. It's just common sense. And this guy, he's like a child. He's a 45-year-old man with a 20-something-year-old mentality. I mean, can you imagine not once but twice using something that he knows he shouldn't be using? I think it's like he's trying to brag to his wife and to his friends. Oh, look what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Kind of like what Trump
yeah.
does. Remember Trump at Mar-a-Lago? Oh, look at these documents. Isn't it really cool? They're like children, So
Yeah.
then you get bounce back, and there the planets don't discriminate. When you get Saturn, even when you're doing it well, Saturn will always challenge you. But if you're doing it like this, it's bad, bad, bad. It comes.
Well, he apparently he even got this information from a general. So he was repeating what a general told him to his wife and brother and all that.
Right,
And
right.
and he's trying to act like it's no big deal. And Ted Cruz said, "Oh, it was an accidental butt dial."
Right? But
No,
that's
it
not,
wasn't.
that's two accidental mistakes.
Ah,
So, and then the other thing, by the way, because I often think about it this way, and I know I've actually heard a couple of the good minds out there, people that are paying attention will see a news story, and the first thing they think is, how did this get out? Why is this known? And it's because the way this president manages is he wants everybody around them to be fighting. Well, then they're fighting, they're going to rat each other out. So now
yeah,
nobody likes this guy. So it's like a bomb waiting to blow. That's why that guy said there's going to be more stuff coming out because he knows he has big enemies surrounding him, right? So
yeah.
how is this going to work? I mean, this kind of thing can work a little bit for a while, but it's not a good plan. It really isn't.
Enough. They fired some people that are around him, and some people walked out.
Yeah,
But
yeah, and the ones,
Pentagon.
and clearly there's someone in there, or there's something going on where, like, I often wonder to myself, these people are horrible, and then we find out about it within hours, within days, because, you make a mistake like this, maybe you could just stop doing it and then no one would find out, but with these people, it seems that everything gets out, right?
Oh, even other nations don't trust him. They don't trust the United States right now, especially him.
No, that's the hard part of this, by the way, because if it's not militarily, it's economically. The way this guy is playing, he's damaging the U.S. and it's going to take years to recover because, once you lose friendships because you've betrayed, like look at Canada, right? Canada's really upset now because if you say we're going to come over, we're going to take over your country. I mean, what do you expect?
But I get that Trump doesn't really want to get rid of him because he's such an ass kisser.
Well, no, Trump is going all on loyalty. He's on his team or whatever. It's just that what ends up happening, though, at a certain point becomes too damaging, and anyway, I don't know. All I can tell you is he's got some pretty heavy Saturn, and people like this do the worst with Saturn because Saturn is your ability to stay disciplined and contained, and that's exactly what he can't do.
Hey, look what I got. I got the communications will end him. The
Yeah,
communications will end him.
Yeah, which is funny, by the way, because Gemini is the sign of communication, but it just shows you how he's corrupting it because he can't do it straight. And it shouldn't be that hard. Just follow.
And also, he's in a group of people he doesn't trust. He thinks everybody's working against him.
And by now they probably are. Yeah, probably. Sure. I mean, sometimes like when you're paranoid, in a way you're justified. I mean, the way pretty much all these people in the cabinet do it, you'd have to be paranoid because can you imagine? I mean, in the army, you've got a lot of people that have been around for many years. They're going to be thinking, who is this guy, who has no idea how this works, and he comes in here to tell me what to do, and I've got 30 years experience here.
I know.
It causes resentment, It's
And
like
he's got a big mouth and you can't trust saying anything to him.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think
He's the type, if you said a lie to him, we've got word that North Korea is going to send a nuke to the America. But it was a lie. He would tell everybody.
Yeah, well, he's already shown you that, right?
Yeah.
No question. I mean, this is the thing, right? That works really well at Fox News. That's what he was doing before.
Yeah.
You can go and you can just
Much
shoot the
ado,
breeze.
bunch of lies.
Yeah.
So, did you take a look at Tom Homan, the guy that's in charge of the illegal deportations?
No, he might have.
Okay, so I can't ask you about that because you haven't taken a look.
No.
How about Vice President Harris? Have you looked at her chart recently?
I haven't. Her chart is fine though at the moment, especially. It's quite good because it's this swath between now and June. Jupiter's crossing her ascendant, and all that Saturn pressure that was there from November to about maybe February, March, it's passed. So yeah, she's doing quite well, at the moment. Into
Right.
about, I would say June. Then it's okay, but it's not as, is she doing anything? I haven't been tracking her at all. Is she doing anything interesting lately?
I haven't hardly heard about her. She had a real cute little Easter dress on and she was with her nieces. But she's not, she did make that one statement. She's telling us where we're at. So did Biden say it's terrible where we're at. But that's as far as it goes.
Well, they showed clips of her in the campaign saying, if you elect Trump, we'll be in a recession by the summer. But the thing is, we've seen this clip before because Hillary, if you watch clips of Hillary in 2016, she told everyone what was going to happen, right? So the thing with all this, though, see, then I have to go a level higher because you start to ask, okay, so how is it that the U.S. is in this crazy place? That's the thing. Remember, you and I talked about this many times, that we're in the Civil War zone. So, this is like the 1860s where the big, slow planets are moving, including now, by the way, one of the interesting ones that I said this a few times, but I had no idea what shape it might take, because one of those planets, the Uranus return, in the U.S. chart, whenever Uranus returns, the country tends to get into a war with someone. Well, now we're in a war. It's a trade war. Let's hope it doesn't turn into a hot war. But there's a definite conflict here, that is developed. And the combination of Uranus and Neptune, it mirrors the Civil War. You throw the Pluto in there, too, for the trying to be authoritarian for the time being. And it makes everyone really nervous. And, the MAGA people are happy, but they're going to be as upset pretty soon because, you can say, oh, he's my guy. Yeah, well, wait till you see that prices aren't coming down. They're going to go up.
Yeah.
There's no way, if you impose these tariffs, everything coming in has to be paid by the one who buys it, right? Like I saw this report where they were saying that, go on Amazon, go to Costco, you buy something, right? A lot of that stuff is made in China by someone who has a business in America who figured out, oh, I think I'll make this gadget, right? And they have it made in China because it's cheaper, right?
Yeah.
Well, now that's going to cost twice as much. So then those people are going to lose their jobs. So that's unemployment going up. And then people can't buy the gadgets, or you buy it, but you buy it for way more money.
Way more.
Because Trump's idea is to bring it back to the U.S. You can't make that stuff here at that price. You have to charge people a lot more.
Well, he doesn't have the cards. He always said, you don't have the cards. He doesn't have the cards.
He doesn't have
He
the
thought
cards.
everybody would come and kiss the ring.
No, and some will, but many won't. Yeah, many won't. And the other thing is, when you look at, China has quite a accurate chart because it's the chart for when Mao, back in 1949 or something, he literally said it. This is the beginning of the whatever. And even though now they're not doing Mao anymore, they just continued. It's a communist thing. China right now has Pluto on the ascendant. They're not going to back down. They're not going to.
Oh my God.
It's not going to happen. So
I mean, I never really liked China, but you know what? I like the fact that they're so headstrong and they're telling Trump, you can't do that to us. We're not going to bend our knees to you. Good for them.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, and by the way, this is where MAGA people would accuse us of being traitors because we're not backing, the U.S. on this. It's not that I'm backing or not backing. It's just a fact of life. Like, you can say truthful things like, yes, it probably wasn't a good idea for the U.S. to get
just like what he did to Canada.
Yeah, like we got addicted to Chinese goods because they're cheaper, and they're cheaper because they're paying people very little in China. So maybe if we were really principled, we would have said, we're not going to buy that stuff. But everyone went along with it. Now it's too late. So if you want to go to Costco and buy pants for $15, they're made in China. Okay, just realize that. It's the truth. If you buy the same pair of pants made in the U.S., $60, $70, $80, because labor here is more expensive because you can't live, on $2 an hour. In China,
Exactly.
they pay people like $500 a month, and that's for them a good salary, right? So now this thing is coalesced, and if we had a good president who adjusted slowly, you might be able to do it. But this guy he's nuts. He's like a bull in a china shop, and he's always had in his mind tariffs. So he's trying to tariff everybody. And the other thing he's doing that's crazy is he's tariffing countries that are really poor. The best example is that place where all they have is diamonds, which is great. Lesotho, they find diamonds, right? They sell them to us, and then they use the money to buy like food and basics because they don't have anything. And
Right.
according to Trump, since they're making money off us, it should also go the other way around. They should buy American goods. But how are they going to do that? Like, and why? It's kind of like
Because
saying,
we're probably buying that stuff at pennies on a dollar.
it's just whack thinking. It's like the way Trump thinks is like if you go to the store and you buy groceries from Safeway, now you're in a trade deficit with Safeway, right? Because is Safeway going to buy something from you? Like what? What would they? What would they get from you?
Right.
It's just childish thinking. But he's been saying this since his 30s, 40s. Like he's totally obsessed with the idea that tariffs are the solution to the problem.
But you know what's interesting? Then the stock market went up today. They
Yeah, but
regained all the losses.
It's going to be like this, though. It's going to be like this
Yeah.
because what happens is traders, they're sort of sure that something's wrong. That's why it's gone down mostly, But then, traders are greedy. Okay, now we can buy it and, make some money, especially short-term money. But I think it's that kind of thing where it'll go like this, but the curve is more like down this way.
It's going down, yeah.
Yeah, because you can't support the value of things, based on the way this guy is doing it. And you probably heard now too that this was predicted by some people. They were saying, just watch. Now he's going to start going after Powell, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but Powell already said, see, this is the problem we're in. This is true. Powell said, if I lower interest rates, we'll get more inflation,
Right.
right? So, because to Trump, lower the interest rates so there can be more investment. Yeah, there'll be some more investment, but more inflation. So, like all of this is not going to work with the people that vote for you. And don't expect, if you're realistic, it's been less than 100 days. The MAGA shoppers they're not quite getting it yet, but just give it time.
Just
when
give
they
it time,
realize,
yeah.
wow, this guy said day one, prices are going to drop. They're not dropping. And
They're not
gonna
dropping.
drop. No. So,
And also that in Maine and all those Northern California places where the Canadians and in Florida, the Canadians with vacation, they're not coming anymore.
no, for sure. Well, Canadians and pretty soon it'll be across the board because now the latest thing I heard is that even U.S. citizens, right, are having trouble. You leave the country, coming back in, they ask you questions like, what do you think of, I saw this thing, I couldn't believe it. What do you think of Trump's tariffs? And the person said they didn't like them and they started harassing them, In fact, in one case, they didn't let them in. As a
Oh
result of
my
that.
God.
It's insane. Like a lot of those customs guys, by the way, this is nothing new. I used to live in Canada in the 70s, 80s, and I remember in the 70s, that's a long time ago, and I remember going to Detroit and getting a really hard time, like really rude. They were saying, are you some kind of alien trying to come in here? This is like many, many years ago. The U.S. that way, I think with a president like Trump, a lot of those customs guys get really big heads, right? And they start to give people a hard time because they have their badge and whatever. It's not a good scene, and it's going to cost the U.S. in tourism.
Well, they're warning people, don't come to the U.S. China said no more vacations in the United States.
Yeah. No, it's
And China was a good customer.
yeah, no, for sure. Not to mention.
When I went to France with my sister, it was a lot of Chinese people that were tourists there.
Yeah, and it goes the other way. I was just going to say that even U.S. people traveling somewhere now, they're going, oh, you're American. You're going to have to tell them, I'm not in agreement with, the
Oh, yeah,
president.
I wouldn't even try it. They really hate him. So on Trump's chart, does it look like there's some sort of end here or something that he might have to fall over himself or?
Well, in a lot of ways, it's very similar to Hexeth because both are the same sign, and Trump has been, and we think back to, this is the Jupiter, right? But this is the thing with Jupiter. Jupiter is the greatest planet, but it can lead you into a into a problem because your head gets big, even when you get a lucky break, right? This was like Jupiter can be like you're walking along the street and you find a suitcase with a ton of money.
Yeah.
Now, if you're Trump, you take the money. Most people would go like, I wonder where this money came from. Like, for example, what if it's mob money?
Yeah.
Right? What if it's drug money? You take it, you take your life into your hands. So if you look at Trump's chart, when did things start to go better? Because he was doing really poorly last year. He had just been convicted in May. It's in June. Jupiter enters Gemini, everything changed, right? Including that he gets himself into the presidency. But look at all the bumping and grinding. I mean, this is not an easy thing.
I don't think he won fair and square. I think it was a cheat.
Well, regardless, he got in. So now Jupiter's leaving in June, goes to the next sign. It's way, way more problematic, right? And next year is really problematic. And so, especially when some of that is linked to his health and well-being, that's probably the worst. I mean, if all he experiences is political turmoil, that's rough and it's going to block him and it's going to be difficult. But if something worse happens, well then, and it's there. It's in the chart. It's clear as can be, and if you think that that's a joke, now, of course, the Pope, he was a lot older, so you add another 10 years, but Trump is late 70s. You're at an age where planetary pressure, when it happens, is always going to be more dangerous. And the Pope, it was Saturn. Saturn is what did it,
And when does Saturn enter Gemini?
No, it doesn't enter Gemini. Saturn is in Pisces. It's squaring Gemini. It's challenging Gemini. And also with Trump, he has the moon in Sagittarius, so the two ends are getting hit, right? Yeah, that's the logic.
So I heard that Patel is not even showing up at work. He's living in Las Vegas using taxpayers' money to travel.
Yeah, the whole crew. I did this thing with Nave a while back, and we looked at the cabinet, and the pattern that I saw was that in all cases, had said sooner, but all of them by next year, there's lots of pressure, right? That's why I'm optimistic about the 2026 elections, because Trump and the whole cabinet, you can see that things would change. And all that has to happen is if the House goes Democratic, even if the Senate doesn't go Democratic, things are going to change in a big way, because all of a sudden they start to get investigated, they control the money. It's, by the way, I mean, think about that thing with Bukele, the El Salvador guy, right?
Yeah.
The leader, that guy with the beard, Mr. Tough Guy, another one of these tough guys. So if you ask yourself, well, why did he because, Chris Van Hollen went over there and he said, hey, I want to see this guy. No. Then he relented. And I heard someone say, what's obvious, he probably thought, well, what if next year the government changes, because then the Democrats will control the money and they're not going to give us any money anymore.
Right. And also, you get enough Democrats, they can overrule a veto from Trump.
Well, that's more complicated because the veto is in the Senate, and the Senate,
I think we'll take the Senate
you need
too.
66, but you need 66 votes though.
But there's 12 Democrats now in the Senate who don't want this budget. They don't want them touching Medicaid. They're really finally listening to their constituents.
Yeah, which is, again, lots and lots of obstacles to getting things done. Now also, too, if they follow through on the tax thing of giving themselves a big tax cut while everyone else is paying more for things, that's another major blow.
Right, and then doing a $9 billion or $9 million parade for his birthday.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's probably a ton of money that he shouldn't be spending, but it's the way, he's just that way. And
in his office, did you see he changed his office to a mini Mar-a-Lago with a bunch of those ugly gold-plated, but he has a thing there of the faces from South Dakota with his face on there.
Yeah, it's kind of like a, nouveau riche, like a kind of a low-class person who thinks that, you got to wear everything on your sleeve. Like if you're rich, I got to show you my big, expensive, whatever. It's unbelievable. Again, like a child, like a total child. So, but see, this is the thing, though, right? I mean, if you think, okay, well, fine, we covered all the reasons. Just go back to the fact that if we're in Civil War territory, we're probably going to be uncomfortable for a while. We got to get to the other side of it. That's it, right? And just remember that last time we got through it, and in between, the other time that it got pretty nasty, we got through that too in the 40s, right?
Everybody stood up and fought him.
Yeah.
And the other thing, his picks last time were not as bad, but still they weren't that good. And they were, a lot of them, remember that one bought that multi-$1,000 desk and everybody was upset?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and see, this is the thing. Then now, because they're worse, what goes through people's minds is, well, that's good in a way, because then that way maybe they'll fail. Yes, but like you said, Hegseth is in charge of the army. Well, you just said if he hears about North Korea and it's false, he'll tell everybody. What if he launches a missile?
I know. I know.
What do you do? But I have a feeling that, my feeling is that, you see, this is the other problem. The government is a big organization, like the Pentagon, all these people, right? How do you know? Like, people are saying, how do you know if Trump is going to order, the military to go after the people of the U.S.? Like, he at one point threatened the demonstrators. They're all peaceful demonstrators, but he threatened, they're like terrorists. So you can order the military to do something. Be careful they don't come after you, because they might decide the other way around. It's like with Hegseth, right? He does something. How do you know they don't rebel and go the other way? Right?
Exactly.
So it's complicated for them as well. But all of it makes everyone nervous because that's the whole thing, Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the Pope has passed. I was looking at his last days on that balcony at Easter, and he was really having a hard time breathing. He was, you could tell. But when he raised his hand and did this, his palms were purple. Yeah. He was already dying.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember I did his chart in one of my classes when he first got a little sick. Well, quite sick, actually. And you can see that in the chart why it was lung, breath related. And I remember saying, you at this age, getting out of this is going to be so hard because he's got the sun in degrees that are kind of like if you make a cross in the sky.
Yeah.
The Pope's sun is in the same cross as Trump. Right? So the Saturn is like crunching it. And if you're already sick, Saturn is the one planet, and by, sick, but also really old, and like you're pretty much on your last breath.
What sign was he?
He was Sagittarius.
Okay.
So the Cancer rising with Sagittarius sun, which that puts the Sagittarius sun in the health house. So that's an added, mirror. Like when something is happening and the person reports ill health, you got to put it all together, the age, the whole thing. And I noticed that that's a pattern that I've seen many times. One of the most difficult ages to get through is the 88, 89, because it's the third Saturn return.
You said that before, I remember.
Yeah, and many people, even people that are very athletic, strong, they get to that point and it's hard because the Saturn is a planet of old age. It rules your bones. It's what holds you up. By that age, it could be your genetics, something in your makeup. It's like that's it. You're running out of gas. And then if you get through, there are some people, but they're more the exception than the rule. So
yeah. So what about the Catholic Church? I don't know if I feel they're going to get somebody in there that's more dynamic. Not that this one wasn't, but I feel maybe even a little younger.
A little younger. You mean? What do you mean by more dynamic?
Well, because he's younger.
Oh,
I feel like he attracts the younger people.
Right. So do you think they're going to go, I haven't even looked at that. Do you feel like they're going to go more conservative? Because the previous guy to this was a real stickler for tradition. And then this Pope was, more inclusive.
Well, Roger Stone went on the media and called him a communist, and it's good that he's dead. And I said, you just don't like him because he loved the poor and he was for the immigrant. To you, that's communist. I said, but when your passing comes, that God's going to send you to the hot room.
I know, and when the Pope gets to the pearly gates, they're going to ask him, so who was the last person that you saw? Oh, it's that JD guy, JD Vance. Ugh, no.
I know.
Some people even said, maybe when he saw JD, he thought, oh my God, that's it. I've had enough. I'm gone.
But they call him Mr. Maybelline guy.
Yeah.
But the Pope, not the Pope because he was too sick, but his people gave him a couple of Easter baskets for his kids. So he was nice to him, but he didn't see him for very long. They begged him because it was a real slap in the face when he said no. But Trump is saying he's going to go to the funeral. If he goes to Italy, the ICC works out of Italy, they'll arrest him.
Okay, well, that would be interesting.
Wouldn't that be great?
I mean, the only thing with that is that, the U.S. still has a lot of world power, so arresting a U.S. president would be maybe a little too provoking. I don't know.
But, define U.S. president. That's not a president. That's Satan himself.
Oh,
Ooh,
yeah,
speaking of Satan, you guys, there is a movie I watched again, and I didn't realize this movie was by that great spooky writer, M. Shalaman or Shala. You know who that guy is? Shalaman. He did that movie with Mel Gibson.
Mel Brooks?
No, he did a movie with Mel Gibson about aliens coming to the earth and trying to get rid of the earth people. Mel Gibson, who had been a priest, but then he dropped it because his wife was killed. What's the name? Anyway, Charlemagne. It's called The Devil, okay? I didn't realize he had done that movie. He's the best on the edge of your seat writer. He's as good as Stephen King, if not better in some aspects. He did this story called The Devil about some people being stuck in an elevator. I got to tell you, it was fantastic. If you get a chance, it's called The Devil.
The Devil. Okay, well, that's pretty clear.
The Devil. And I'll tell you, it was heck of good. And I didn't realize that he was the one that did it. And that'd be explaining it because I saw it years ago. And I thought, what was that movie I saw that was so spooky? Then I Googled devil, and there it was. It was good. Anyway.
Yeah, no, yeah. And by the way, it fits. I mean, when you think of devil behavior, it's like the devil is like extreme selfishness, extreme I, my, me behavior, which is what these guys do, because everything about their game is what's important to me, where can I get mine, and the idea of equitability. I mean, they went around, heard this, I think on NPR or somewhere, where they said that they removed from all the government websites the word equity, like the idea of something, promoting.
Yeah.
They consider that like diversity and equity. No, that's not allowed anymore. We're going to take that out. And so, but then if you then raise prices and then cut taxes for yourself, you're kind of sending the message, right, that it's only the rich people that count, right? But see, this is where, again, you got to be, instead of thinking, okay, well, these guys are going to take over, before you think that, look at how stupid they are, right? It's hard to do, right? Like one of the things, here's one of the things that's very Trumpy, which Hitler and Napoleon both fell for. You do too many things. Like Napoleon, all of a sudden, he went after everybody. Too much. The armies were, too many. Then he lost. Hitler goes east, goes west, goes north. Couldn't keep it up. Trump, if Trump had been smart, don't touch the economy. Just leave it alone, right? Then you can go around doing your crimes. But now he's opened that front. He's got the other front with the immigrants. He's got the universities. He's got everything and everyone all at once, like that movie that won the whatever it was.
Yeah.
Everything. So so if you think that way, and then you realize, okay, let's assume just even to have hope that we can recover, and then the idea is that they're giving you a lot of ways to run against them by saying, this is all for the rich, it's not for everybody else, we need to stop this, it's a bad plan, right?
Right.
That if they do it well, then they could continue, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's kind of important. Otherwise, you lose hope. But the problem with that too, then someone can reply and say, yeah, but in the meantime, we're going to be suffering. Yeah, that's true. Because if things are costing more, and yes, I get it. And you're seeing all these injustices, you know, with immigrants and possibly soon even with citizens. We'll see, you know.
Right. Right.
Yeah, let's hope not. I mean,
I know.
yeah.
But astrologically, is there anything in the skies that's coming up that could be good aspects or?
Well, I mean, they're all good in the sense that they're taking us there. They're taking us to the destination, right? But what people often, I see these in the comments on my channel, that even if I just say, hey, this could go on for a while, oh, we can't survive. Well, what are you going to do? I mean, because people were saying, oh, I'm going to leave the country. Where are you going to go? Most people can't do that. No. By the way, right now, if you leave the country, it's probably even worse. Because if you go somewhere, maybe it's more expensive. Maybe they won't even allow you to go there because they'll see you're American, whatever. But you have to me, is yes, let's hope something important happens, like tomorrow, the next day. There's a Uranus coming up to square the American moon, which it did last year. You know, there was all that topsy-turvy stuff. So that's possible. That's coming up now too, and going into roughly the summer, basically. Uranus going through there. It could do something. But I'm assuming that we'll have to trudge through. We have to get through this. And there are a lot of good signs. Look at all the demonstrations. I mean, the country is just on fire. You know, and this started with the Venus retrograde, those 40 days, but it's continuing. They're not stopping.
Right.
Everywhere, Alaska, Colorado, Alabama, everywhere, people are demonstrating. And I think as the economics of it becomes more entrenched, probably in a month or 2, 3 months, it'll continue. Also, too, because it's easier to demonstrate in the summer because it's warmer, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So there's that as well, because if it's winter, you're a little less motivated.
So how's Capricorn holding up? You guys okay? You were sick for a while.
Yeah, well, that wasn't Capricorn. That was the same degrees. Those degrees that I mentioned for the Pope and for Trump, they affect my ascendant, like the birth point. So, I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it was a 10-day, one of the worst colds I've had in years.
I've been hearing that. Worst cold ever.
Yeah, this naturopath woman who's really experienced and has become really good over the years at what she does, she told me that since COVID, the standard germs that cause cold, she said they're way nastier than they used to be. So she was telling me that certain herbs that are very good for this, she said, no, take more. Take, like, it says 2 on the bottle, take 4, because it'll just add more power. They're very nasty viral germs, right? So that's what we're in, post-COVID. Because ironically now, COVID is weaker, I think. You get COVID, I can't remember the COVID experience I had in 2022. It was like 2 days. I had a really sore throat in the 3rd day, but I was much better than this. This was worse.
Had you had the inoculation?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had.
Because remember, I had it from Chicago. I got it in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And I had a test. I had a runny nose. And I tested. I was shocked that I had it. Never had a fever. Never had coughing. I was tired. That was it.
Yeah. Well, I've experienced the vaccine. Gives me more trouble for about a day. The feeling is really yucky. The COVID, it was a bit of fever. It was not anything. Now, probably maybe because I was taking the booster, so then that's the whole idea, that they reduce the impact, right? But this cold, or especially a couple of flus that I had over the years, way worse. You know, where you're just out for like weeks, 3 weeks. you can't do anything.
I haven't had one of those in a while.
Yeah, thank God, you know. Yeah.
I remember I had some sort of cold and I was still working at Angel Heart and I was dying over there.
Yeah, that's like, you know, health is the most important thing, and this is where the Trump has to be very careful. Another thing too that I'm sure you'll agree, he doesn't look at all like he did 8, 9, 10 years ago. He looks like a tired, fading man. Whenever I see him answer questions, you know, it's like he's got this fog over his eyes. He used to be, you know, in your face back in the day when he used to go, the whole thing about Russia is a hoax. You know, he was really Mr. Tough Guy. Now he's way more muted, which, yeah, partly it's age, but partly he may already be, you know, this is the thing that when you're about to crash, kind of like how you said, look, I saw the post hands and they looked purple, so I think that can't be good. Well, people have pointed out that Trump has that in his hands too.
I know he has it on the back, right? The Pope had it in his palms. I said, those are the hands of a dying man.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that's the thing that, you know, you carry on. He carries on in the same way. I don't think, you know, one of his beliefs. This man he's just such a tool. He's got this belief that how did he put it? That he doesn't exercise because everybody only gets a certain number of breaths. Okay, but my question is, how do you know how many of those there are? Right, number one.
Right.
Number two, when I was a distance runner, I had worked out mathematically, right, that all the extra breaths I took by running fast came back when I wasn't running because I was breathing a lot less. So I was actually saving breaths and heartbeats. So
Okay.
that's why it helps your health. But he's just not, the man isn't smart. The way he reasons, same with the tariffs, right? It doesn't occur to him, by doing this, I'm going to cause a bigger problem, right?
Yes.
So that's where we're at. It's really sad that we have to hurt, you know, that he has to take us along in this direction.
Well, and the Pope had one lung. He
Yeah.
only had one lung.
Yeah,
So
which
he had
means
things working against him. Yeah.
working against him. Yeah, for sure. So that's how that goes. So I mean, I think that I don't know what you're telling your people about to cope. I try to remind everyone that it's really important to find your calm center and create distance from the reaction. You know, because it's totally natural to get angry and, you know, of course, because of what you're seeing. But the more you can just accept the reality and do as much as you can. I mean, let's go to demonstrations. I love the fact that we can go out there and make our presence felt, because he hates that. You know, when the media is carrying all the stories, he hates it. Or any other way, calling up senators to put pressure on them, because the Democrats need to be called because they're a bit too passive, you know.
Oh, always.
Yeah, so we need to be on them. And so all of that is great, but in terms of the personal, don't get too agitated, because that's like you swallowing poison, hoping the other person's going to die. It doesn't help anything. It makes you feel worse. You make mistakes. You know, I even think that agitation, I've noticed that when there's agitation, bad things happen. You know, you bump into things, you hurt yourself. It's almost like you enter the unfortunate universe because of your own vibe. It changes, and then it causes problems, right? So here's the thing. If you look at this a little more optimistically, you could say, these are the years to develop that, because you have to, because you're in a, you know, it's like we all have to be, we're like in a porta potty for now.
Right.
It smells, it stinks. Gotta get used to it.
Yeah.
It'd be good if you could get out of the porta potty. You can't. I mean, at least not right away unless something happens. If it does, great. But if not, we got to have resilience, right? You know, use your imagination. Can you imagine what people thought during the Civil War? It had to be really rough on a lot of the families, you know, with their children fighting the war, potentially dying, you know. People had to be quite upset. Same theme, by the way. That was an attempt to impose white supremacy. That's what that was. You know, think about it, right? That was the South saying we should be able to enslave whoever we like, you know. And you know, and now it's different flavor, but it's sort of the same Same
Right,
type of
but
idea.
the white people are going down, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, but just the white nation, it's getting populated out.
Yeah, it's getting mixed. It's the thing
Yeah.
that they most hate, And
So they're
what
trying
was
to hold on to something that,
didn't they offer? Someone told me this that they're offering women $5,000 to have babies. Is that true? I think I heard
I
that.
haven't heard that.
I heard someone said that somewhere. I have to verify it, but I don't know that works either. I mean,
Right.
I would say, if I'm a woman and I hear that, I would say, we'll start the negotiation at 50,000 or maybe 100,000. Then we can talk.
Well,
5,000? Are you kidding?
What you
Especially
need
now?
what you need to do is take the blood work and the DNA of all these Proud Boys and everybody. You'd be surprised how many people have African,
Of course.
Hispanic. There's mixed blood in there. There's nobody really, not too many, just white.
Of course, like the world is not going back. That's another thing too, by the way, that this era that we're in is much more unfriendly to fascists because they need to keep it enclosed. They don't want the news to get out. They want to keep people ignorant, right? But in the Second World War, there was no YouTube. Now everyone is talking everywhere. It's impossible to control the message, right? So
Right.
this makes it really hard. Maybe they're going to try, but there's constant pushback. And also, that's where the world is. The world is becoming this big city where all the people, blend together. I know this, by the way, from when I grew up in Europe. In the countries were just the people in the country, right? So if you saw a soccer game in Spain, all white, right? Now the top players for Spain are black. They were born some in Morocco, that's part of Spain. Some emigrated to Spain. And the forward line, Spain has this amazing team. These two young kids, they look like they come from Africa. I mean, obviously, right?
Right,
And no one
but
says,
they're
oh, we don't
hella-
like that. They think it's great. England, too. In England, you see this. It used to be lily white. Not anymore. So that's not going to change. It's just not going to change.
United States too. Football.
Yeah, well, football, okay, but in there, it's almost like the black race dominates football because they tend to be better, or basketball. as
Way
well.
better.
Yeah, but at least it's sort of the logic that it's a melting pot. It's just what it is. So this idea these people have is counter to the flow of the world, and they're going to find out. That's the logic. And the thing is, if you're in a zone where times are rough, and you think, okay, it does go election to election, and one of the things is that the 28 cycle is definitely a change cycle. Definitely. Okay, well, if it's a change cycle, you change from this to that. You're not going to keep the same thing.
Right.
That's just logic. It's how that works. So, but again, I noticed that saying that, a lot of people think, I can't live through 4 years of this. What's your advice? Or what do you feel about that? How do you do it?
About
Put a bag
how
over your
do I-
head?
Start off with that.
Yeah, like kind of assume that you might have to. I mean, maybe you won't, but
Even look at me. I'm pasty white, and I have African in me. A little tiny bit, but I have African.
yeah. I thought you had, isn't also Native American?
I have Native American. I have Mexican. I have Native American, which is also Mexican, but I also have Mexican, where they show what part of the world I came from. But I have from Togo, Africa. I have 3%.
Yeah. No, that's.
We don't know because my dad was Scottish, Irish, English, and a slave owner in Virginia. So maybe the mixed blood happened then. Who knows?
Yeah.
I had
no.
relatives that were Confederates and relatives that were Union.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, the other thing is that now more than 40, 80, well, maybe not 40, but 80, definitely going to the past, there are a lot of white men and women that are not on the side of this BS. They're just not on.
Oh.
They're not supportive of this because they realize how much of a loser strategy it is. You know, this idea
Yeah.
that you constrict. But you know that's the thing is, in a certain way, the world is in this. You know, remember the biblical thing when in the Bible they would say, well, there are 7 years of prosperity and 7 years of the opposite. It's pretty clear. It's not 7. It's probably more. But we don't know the blocks. It gets really complicated. But the world right now feels like it's contracting, right? Because you could already see it even before Trump brought in the tariffs. But that makes it worse because everyone then, you know, stays within themselves. Canada has to, you know, tighten their ship, and for a while it'll be like that. But these are cycles. You get contraction, then you get expansion again. It's happened before many times, and that's what we have to focus on, you know, and trust that we're going to be able to find our way out. Because I think that in the U.S., I'm actually quite happy with the level of resistance. It's impressive. You know, for a while there it was really quiet. Now it's getting.
Oh my God! And Rachel Maddow, she shows all the peaceful demonstrations. It's beautiful.
No,
even in the red states.
Exactly, and you know, it's curious that you know Bill Maher, he's kind of turned into this.
Can I ask you something real quick? What did Bill Maher do? I never caught what happened. I know everybody hates him.
Okay, so Bill Maher is this communicator, comedian with a political bent. He was doing a show going back 25 years, politically incorrect. He lost his job at CBS because he said that the hijackers were actually physically brave, which they were. I mean, if you crash into a building, you're pretty physically brave. You're also crazy, but whatever, right? So for years there, during the Obama period, he was very, very pro-Democrat. But then he got more and more annoyed with the excesses of the left. You know, a lot of that stuff that's a little more fringe and whatnot. It really bothered him. So he became a kind of a both ways type of guy. And the pinnacle of all this came when he went to the White House to visit Trump, because Trump invited him. And remember, they had a big fight because Maher
he sued him. He sued.
Maher said that Trump was born from an orangutan, from his mother sleeping with an orangutan, which actually, it's, you know,
it's the truth, but yeah.
It's pretty. So then, anyways, fast forward. So Trump invites him, and he went over there, and apparently Trump really behaved himself. He was totally nice, like not a peep, didn't try to lecture Maher and so on. So Maher came back on the show and said, "That's what I got to tell you." He was really, really nice, and of course, some people got angry about that. It took him a week. A week later, the next show, he started saying everything against Trump again, because he's saying, how can he be doing this? Joe Scarborough is another one. Joe Scarborough and Mika, they were really spooked by Trump. They went to Mar-a-Lago. If you watch Joe Scarborough now on Morning Joe, he's just he's hammering away. He's saying, this isn't right, look what they're doing. It's just a full front, you know, everybody is in on it. And not to mention countless YouTube channels, you know, that are covering it very, very well. I mean, there's no excuse these days for not getting good information if you want to find it. Be careful with stuff that is made up, right?
Yeah.
Because I've seen a couple of times and I thought, does this make sense? And then I went to check it and it wasn't true. It was from the past, you know, so you got to...
Right. I like Midas Touch and people like that.
That's right. And they're usually people that they check their news. That's why, to me, that I still say the New York Times, even CNN, places like that, they don't put something unless they check their sources. So you're almost certain to get the correct thing. Once in a while, they make a mistake. But if you start trusting certain outlets, you might believe it and it's not true. And then that
Well, even me, I would get information and took it as truth and repeat it and find out later it was a fraud. So I really have to be careful now and double check. Even when I'm doing a live, I'll take this and Google what someone just told me. And if it's not in there, it's not true.
Yeah, exactly. I've also started to use the AI. Could be a really good thing because the AI engines are sweeping the web, and you ask the question and it'll tell you. This is what people are saying. I mean, you can ask it the most crazy stuff. Like, I'll take something that I bought and I'll say, this thing is this part number, whatever. Why is it doing this? And it'll tell me. People have reported, blah, blah, blah. Push this thing here, do the other thing, and then it'll work. Sure enough. So it's a really great invention, provided we can keep it with from it becoming an evil thing.
Yeah, sweeping the internet isn't going to hurt you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in that sense, we live in a great era, but we're going through. I think we're going through. It's like if you think of life as an ocean, the waters are rough right now. And you get waves that threaten to capsize you. Let's say at times.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, my friend, we've been on almost an hour.
Yeah, that was fun as usual. Let's follow up soon because I have a feeling that I think now we'll probably see even more action than has been the case, which I don't know, in a way, I don't even know how that could be, but maybe more important action. I'm really curious about that, the Uranus cycle, because that cycle corresponded with all that topsy-turvy stuff in the summer last year when Biden leaves, Kamala comes in, and Trump, there were 2 attempts. It's a crazy moment when something unusual can happen.
Right,
We're
right.
moving into that. So, yeah.
The thing is, too, there's some astrologer, not you. You kind of give a general overview. There's some that I was watching post-Trump getting in, and they were saying, and this eclipse is going to totally affect him, and this eclipse, and they were doing stuff like that. And they know the language of the astrology, but then nothing happens. And I thought, we can't hold our breath on eclipses either.
No, well, you can't see the whole of astrology. Astrology, sometimes yes. Sometimes I've seen lots of charts where you go, look at that, the closeness. Like I remember, for instance, with the Pope. That's a close proximity of degrees. Like that's where you really say, look, it's right there, right? But I also see plenty of charts where it's the zone, right? So the zone is, for the Pope, would be from March of this year to all the way for a year, because the Saturn goes in and out. And I've seen cases where somewhere in the middle, and you kind of go, well, and then you realize, oh, it's because as soon as it hits the zone until it gets out of the zone, right? So when you start saying things like, well, look, I saw some people saying that, well, they were using a different technique. It wasn't astrology, but I wouldn't be surprised if an astrologer has done this too, where they said, this person was saying that Abrego Garcia was dead. And I thought,
I remember that. I said, no, he's not dead.
Well, that's what the person was saying. So you kind of go, well, you're getting a little too specific. Like, if you're really super sure, okay, but, didn't turn out that way, right?
No.
So that's an example, but a lot of the patterns are the zones that you're in, right? Once you're in the zone, this, by the way, the point for me was driven home. JFK's chart, his death, it's not at the precise hit, it's just in the zone, in there in the middle.
Oh, you can't, that was pretty.
No, but
because people say, when is this going to happen? We can't tell you when.
Well, I mean,
I can see, like when they said that guy was dead, and I looked, and psychically I said, no, he's still alive. I can see he was still alive.
Well, this person was.
But I can't tell you when he's coming home, but I do see him being escorted home.
You see that?
Yes, but I can't tell you when.
Okay, by the way, that guy, there's a great example. Okay, this is astrology in action. That guy is a big problem for Trump. Huge problem. Whether he dies or lives, doesn't matter. Because when you look at the chart to chart, everything in that guy's chart is hammering Trump problematically. Those are the people that can do damage to you. So, doesn't matter either way. And for him, the crazy thing is, I've said this in one of my videos, for him, I think it's going to turn out that this event will be the most important moment in his life that moves him up a notch, because he's got actually quite a nice chart. It's a really cool.
Oh, really? That's wonderful.
Yeah,
what sign is he, by the way?
Leo. But that's the problem. He's early Leo, Pluto on the other end. Now, you get Pluto opposite your sun. An extreme version of that is, because Pluto took Persephone and put her underground, right? So it's like a kidnapping. He's been kidnapped. Yeah. It's classic. You see that this is where you see the astrological archetypes in real life.
Isn't that something?
Can you imagine saying to someone, if every person that had a Pluto opposite and you said, they're going to take you to El Salvador and put you in a prison? Well, that would be awful. But he, because of his own life trajectory, becomes a little more exposed. He's there now. But overall, that chart is very nice. He's got this grand trine with a kite and his planets that are helpful and nice hammer into Trump. So I think Trump there, without knowing it, made a big mistake
Right.
because one way or the other, it's gonna brand him, in a negative way. So
And I read that apparently the Supreme Court said, no, you can't remove these people to El Salvador at 1 o'clock in the morning. And they
Correct.
put it out so fast, they didn't even give Alito a chance to do his dissent. Because the only two that dissented was Thomas and Alito.
yeah, which
They said,
again,
no,
so-
you can't do that.
Okay, so this is where again, I mean, think about if you take everything as negative, then you'll just drive yourself crazy. Look
Yeah.
for the positive signs. One really powerful positive sign: the 3 people he put on that court didn't go with him. That's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Wonderful.
And even if you said, I think there's like a layer. The Supreme Court is the 3 women that are Democratic are solid jurists. Yes, they're going to be more Democratic because they're Democrats, of course, but they follow the law. Then the next 2 that are most helpful are Roberts and
Amy.
Coney Barrett, right? And then Kavanaugh and Gorsuch. Kavanaugh and Gorsuch could go with the other guys. They could because Kavanaugh.
They
and
didn't
Gorsuch-
this time.
They didn't this time, but that's very bad news for Trump, right? Because they're kind of saying no, no, no. And part of it, by the way, is because they're looking. I think they must be looking at it with the way this is going. He wants to take away our power. We're an equal
Yes.
branch.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking because, you think China's being stubborn. I almost think he challenged Roberts, and Roberts is saying, oh, hell no, you will listen to what I got to say.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll just keep voting against you. I'll just keep voting against you.
yeah. Exactly. And you said about how they 1 o'clock in the morning
1
they
o'clock.
ruled and said you can't do this. And you know that there was a caravan filled with, and they turned around, right? Okay, so you got to take that as a positive for now. At least maybe the next caravan doesn't turn
Absolutely.
around. Here he said okay, and he backed up. So take everything, and keep resisting, keep bringing it up, get in his face, like make it,
And
obvious.
all judges he even appointed are voting against him.
Yeah,
Because
no,
it's so
yeah.
egregious. It's so egregious. It's so unbalanced. It's not constitutional. They're saying, no, you can't do that.
100%.
But I'm the president. Yes, I can.
No, I mean the answer to that is you're the president and we're the Supreme Court. We're the same. We're equal to you. It's an
Yeah.
equal branch.
Oh, equal branches. Yep.
Co-equal branches. Yeah. So there you
This
go.
is going to be okay.
All right. All
So-
right. Bye everyone. Bye everyone for now.